The DA of Fulton County, Georgia, is being subpoenaed by Congress. This is for not answering previous questions and requests from GOP lawmakers over her handling of Justice Department funds and the firing of the whistleblower who called it out. There is a recall of all Tesla U.S. models. It's the second recall in recent months for the EV maker. We'll tell you what this latest one deals with. The largest CIA data breach in history. A former coder for the agency is sentenced to 40 years in prison. Stay tuned as we bring you all the details. 15 Republican governors are set to visit the southern border on Sunday. This as a trucker convoy continues heading south to raise awareness about the ongoing border crisis. We'll bring you highlights from the convoy's latest event. Locals in the greater Boston area are responding after local authorities decided to transform a rec center there into housing for illegal immigrants. NTD spoke to some of them on the ground. 3 people are dead following a fire. Investigators are looking into the cause. Groundhog find out. Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Jack Bradley. More legal woes for the embattled Georgia District Attorney who's prosecuting the presumed GOP candidate for president, Donald Trump. Congressional Republicans want her to answer questions related to allegedly misusing federal funds and the firing of the whistleblower who found out. Today, Fani Willis is being subpoenaed by the House GOP. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan wants the Fulton County DA to hand over documents related to a probe into her office's handling of federal funds. The request was ignited by allegations a former worker was retaliated against for alerting Willis that the Justice Department funds were being misused by a top Willis campaign advisor. Jordan says he submitted the request twice. Willis, responding last year, says there is no justification in the Constitution for Congress to interfere with a state criminal matter. Her office is prosecuting Trump for election fraud following a 2-year investigation. Jordan's inquiry is part of a larger GOP investigation to determine if Willis used federal dollars in her investigation of Trump. Tesla is recalling nearly all of its vehicles in the U.S. due to small font sizes on warning lights, which could increase the risk of a crash. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the issue was discovered during a routine audit of Tesla vehicles. Tesla says it is not aware of any crashes or injuries caused by the issue. Nearly 2.2 million vehicles are affected by the recall. Tesla has begun releasing an over-the-air software update to fix the issue, free of charge. The agency says owner notification letters are expected to be mailed March 30th. A dramatic scene out of Florida Thursday night, where a small plane crashed at the Bayside Waters mobile home park in Clearwater. 3 people were killed on the fiery crash, 1 person in the plane and 2 on the ground. Several homes nearby also caught fire. Federal Aviation Administration investigators say the pilot reported an engine failure moments prior to the plane hitting the ground. No word on the type of aircraft that crashed. The FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board are investigating.
The tower over there was able to get a radio transmission from the pilot that he was having a mayday, and the aircraft went off radar about 3 miles north of the runway, which is in this location here. We're in the process of working through with FAA and NTSB to identify the aircraft as well as the pilot or any other members that may have been aboard that aircraft.
Our condolences are with those. Now moving on to national security. A former CIA computer programmer has been sentenced to 40 years in prison. He's responsible for the largest CIA data breach in history, along with child pornography charges. 35-year-old Joshua Schulte was sentenced on Thursday by a federal judge in New York. He leaked classified documents to WikiLeaks in 2017 in what is referred to as Vault 7. He revealed how the CIA hacked smartphones and smart TVs in an overseas spying operation. Before the leak, Schulte helped create surveillance tools for the CIA. He has been convicted of espionage, computer hacking, contempt of court, making false statements to the FBI, and child pornography charges. That's after prosecutors said he possessed thousands of videos and images of child pornography on his computer, which he collected on the dark web. Schulte was also sentenced to a lifetime of supervised release. A trucker convoy continues heading south to the Texas border while making stops and holding rallies along the way. 15 Republican governors are also planning to visit the border on Sunday. NTD's Arian Pazdar has an immigration update.
Former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin spoke at an event in Texas held by the trucker convoy last night.
Because it's unconscionable. It's treasonous what our own federal government is doing to us in actually sanctioning an invasion, a foreign invasion of our country across that border.
The truckers' goal is to raise awareness about the government's alleged failure to secure the border. They're scheduled to hold multiple rallies in cities along the border on Saturday. Now, this comes as 15 Republican governors are set to speak in Eagle Pass, Texas on Sunday. And similar to the truckers, the governors are expected to point out the Biden administration's alleged failure to protect the border. And they're also expected to back Texas' claim on its constitutional right to defend itself against an invasion. And also yesterday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced they plan to deploy more National Guard members to the Texas border.
I believe that a state has a right to fortify its own borders. And so if Texas is helping to erect barriers, putting up razor wire, doing other things to keep illegal aliens out, I want to be helpful with them doing that.
Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
The ongoing dispute between Texas and the Biden administration over the state's razor wire barriers on the southern border is intensifying. That's as the country braces itself for the upcoming presidential election. The case will head back to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals next week. NTD's Andrew Thomas spoke with the senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation to learn more.
Texas and the Biden administration are locked in a legal battle over 30 miles of razor wire installed near Eagle Pass amid a surge of illegal immigrant crossings. When Border Patrol agents began to dismantle the fencing, Texas filed a lawsuit in federal district court.
The trial judge was just scathing in his criticism of the Biden administration and saying that not only were they not doing anything to deter, to stop illegal aliens from coming across the border, but there was evidence that they were trying to help them get across the border and be released into the United States.
The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals issued an injunction against the administration in December, largely preventing the federal government from removing the barriers. But the Supreme Court vacated that order on January 22nd. Some media outlets reported the High Court's decision as a ruling against Texas, but senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Hans von Spakovsky, says that interpretation is inaccurate.
Texas can keep putting up fencing because they haven't been ordered not to do that, and the Biden administration can go in and try to cut it and remove parts of it. It's kind of a weird stalemate between the two.
The federal government has jurisdiction over immigration law, but the razor wire is on private and state-owned property, not federal land. The Biden administration claims that Texas's barbed wire fences interfere with federal immigration enforcement, but Spakovsky argues that the barriers do the opposite.
In fact, they are aiding a federal enforcement of immigration law. Why? Because it's against the law for an alien to illegally enter across the border. And so by putting up fencing on state-owned property, all they're doing is helping the federal government enforce federal immigration law.
So is the Constitution's invasion provision a factor here?
This issue has never come up before. And there's a huge debate among legal scholars and others over whether what is happening fits within the definition of invasion in the Constitution. Supreme Court's never ruled on that.
The Fifth Circuit will hear the merits of the case on February 7th. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Connecticut plans to eliminate medical debt for 250,000 residents, becoming the first state in the U.S. to undertake such an initiative. This adds up to approximately $1 billion in canceled medical debt. This will be achieved using a portion of the 2021 American Rescue Plan Act. This act was introduced to assist the U.S. in combating and recovering from the pandemic. The program is set to begin in June. Now, it focuses on single parents and lower-income residents. Taylor Swift, Drake, Adele, Billie Eilish, these are just some of the artists whose music could soon disappear from TikTok. The social media app has lost the rights to license content from Universal Music Group, or UMG, one of the world's largest music conglomerates.
Earlier this week, Universal Music, which represents hundreds of major artists, wrote a forceful open letter to TikTok. It accused TikTok of trying to build a music-based business without paying fair value for the music. UMG said the platform has repeatedly failed to protect artists' rights and interests. The music company said TikTok proposed to pay artists and songwriters at a rate that's a fraction of what other social media platforms like Meta pay, and is allowing the platform to be flooded with AI-generated recordings, which UMG says poses risks to human artists. UMG said TikTok attempted to bully it into accepting a deal that was less than fair market value during negotiations to renew their contract, which expired on Wednesday. As of early Thursday, many popular songs had already disappeared from the social media platform's library, including those from Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, Olivia Rodrigo, and more. While the singer's UMG tracks will be removed, songs licensed exclusively with other music giants like Warner and Sony-owned labels shouldn't be impacted. TikTok has pushed back against claims by UMG, accusing it of putting profit above the interests of their artists and songwriters. The short-form video platform is owned by the Chinese company ByteDance. It's long been accused of providing user data to the Chinese regime.
When we come back, in France, farmer unions diverge, some stepping back, others blocking highways. Meanwhile, a global ripple effect as farmers in at least 4 other nations gear up for street protests. And if chicken wings and shrimp are on the menu for your Super Bowl party, it's going to cost you a little less. We'll tell you how much after the break. Groundhog Day excitement builds in Punxsutawney. Will Phil see his shadow or promise an early spring? Thousands gather to find out. That and more after the break.
Car breakdown is no joke.
With parts, labor, and towing, you could be looking at thousands of dollars in bills, darlings. That ain't funny.
If your vehicle's out of warranty, it's not a matter of if, it's when your car will break down.
Unless you call CarShield, America's most trusted auto protection company.
Plans cover up to 5,000 parts and systems and provide protection anywhere in the country with a mechanic or dealership you choose, all for just one low monthly payment.
And with the CarShield guarantee, your rate never goes up and your coverage never goes down, no matter how many claims you have.
That's money in your wallet.
Don't pay full price for an expensive repair bill when you could be covered.
For CarShield administrators to save us over $1,000, that's money that I could take and plan my next vacation.
CarShield helped me save over $3,600.
Plans through CarShield can protect most major parts and systems in your car, including the engine, transmission, entertainment system, computers, electronics, and more. For dollars a day, your plan could save you thousands the next time your car needs a repair.
The stressful situation that we thought we were going to have was not there. CarShield administrators took care of everything for us.
If our car breaks down, CarShield administrators have our back.
CarShield's coast-to-coast protection also includes 24/7 emergency roadside services. That means help with lockouts, flat or damaged tires, even towing. When you've got a plan through CarShield, you're only one call away from their best coverage yet.
Having a plan through CarShield means dealing with a live administrator who gets you the help you need with your car.
Including getting that repair bill paid.
Save money and save the hassle.
Call CarShield now, before a breakdown.
Call CarShield and get the CarShield guarantee, where your rate never goes up and your coverage never goes down, no matter how many claims you have. But you've got to call CarShield now before your car breaks down. Call 800-587-5179. 800-587-5179.
It's just clear as day. The media, whether it's broadcast, cable, or print media, has become extremely biased. And I started looking online for alternative ways to get information. And I saw an ad for a free trial. And I looked at it and I said, Epoch Times. I mean, come on, this is end of days type of stuff. I mean, what are they going to be talking about here? And I said, well, it's a free trial. Let me dig in. Is it giving me both sides? Is it giving me an objective point of view here? I have looked for opportunities to see where they might be biased, and I don't find it. It has given me a level of trust in media that I didn't think I'd ever get back. I love the Epoch Times because it has renewed my faith in the idea that a reliable, responsible, non-biased source of information is available. And I can say that I love it because of that.
Welcome back. In France, while some farmer unions decide to step back from the protests, others remain steadfast in blocking the highways. This comes as farmer unions in at least 4 other European Union countries are taking their grievances to the streets. NTD's France correspondent David Vives has the story.
At noon, we were with the Prime Minister, and in the evening, we were in prison. That was a great irony.
In just one day, former Union President Serge Bousquet-Cassagne spoke to Prime Minister Gabriel Attal. He then managed to enter France's fresh food market Rungis, where he was arrested by the police.
They arrested us. They took us into custody in a filthy prison. But note that, on the other hand, I don't blame the police at all.
By the time he was released, the Prime Minister announced new measures for French farmers. He stated that France will enshrine the principle of food sovereignty into law and declared that France will not accept the Mercosur trade deal with Latin American countries. Bousquet-Cassagne said this was a response to some of his union's calls.
He heard us. Did he understand? I don't know. To hear is different than to understand. There you go. Farmers are supposed to work in the fields. Our ambition is not to tour France. We'll come back to our places. We'll do the work in the fields. But if we have to, we'll be back.
Farmer breeder Théophane de Flojac says farmers don't want to confront police forces. He says he saw huge support from the French people that means a lot to him.
The police, they're like all the French. That is to say that our convoy, when we crossed the villages, well, there were women, children, grandparents. There was everyone who was there, at the window, with French flags.
Another union said they will also leave the protest, but many farmers are still currently blocking highways and taking actions in the country.
The only ones who were listened to were the main union, as if all the farmers were on the same line as the main union. That's not true at all through the countryside.
As for farmer unions who decided to leave the protest, they also say they look to see the Prime Minister's promises to be fulfilled before the end of February, or they might take their tractors to the streets again. Meanwhile, other farmer unions in Europe's countries such as Germany, Belgium, Italy and Spain are planning to protest next week. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Residents of Roxbury, Massachusetts are responding after news that a rec center there would be closed in order to house illegal immigrants. Many are not happy with the idea but are reluctant to appear on camera. NTD's Virginia Gibson has the story.
My main concern would be their behaviors, to put 40 families or even just 40 people, adults, children, whoever, into a neighborhood. We don't know their behaviors.
The local rec center closure includes halting all activities and youth programs. Protesters armed with bullhorns and signs gathered outside the Melnia Cass Recreation Complex on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, voicing their opposition. They arrived as Governor Maura Healey, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, and other officials held a press conference inside to herald the decision to convert the complex to house illegal immigrants. Healey promised it would be used as temporary housing until the end of May. Some of the protesters clashed with the police there.
Actually, they should be jailed and not housed. Because if we here in the United States, if we commit a crime, usually we're punished for it. Maybe not jailed, but whatever suits the crime. These people, they left from wherever they were. If they didn't come here legally, that's a crime.
Another resident offered another view.
Most of the people you heard from never even use this park. And when they do, they show up
now and then, once in a while. They have not come out here and picked up any trash, any bottles. They haven't contributed or volunteered. 99.9% of those people have never volunteered a day in this park.
The closure comes as the international boarding terminal at Boston Logan International Airport has also been earmarked for illegal immigrant housing. One of the busiest airports in the country, Logan notoriously served as the point of departure for 2 of the 4 planes used in the 9/11 attack on American soil. Migrants are also being sheltered at the O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. Virginia Gibson, NTD News.
A French advertising company settles a multi-million-dollar opioid lawsuit. And the first U.S. job numbers are in for 2024. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's business brief.
Okay, thank you, Jack. The anticipated jobs report from the Labor Department was just released this morning, and it seems like the U.S. labor market is doing just fine. The economy added 353,000 jobs in January this year. The number is well above what economists and analysts had expected. And at the same time, the unemployment rate stayed the same at 3.7% in January. It's near the lowest level since the 1960s. And for the first time, an advertising company has settled an opioid lawsuit. Publicis, a French marketing company that worked on Purdue Pharma's OxyContin account from 2010 to 2019, was accused of falsely marketing opioids at Safe. The agreed settlement of $350 million must be paid within the next 2 months. The company will also not take on any more opioid clients. The company said it didn't admit to wrongdoing, but hopes the payment will help the effort to combat opioid addiction. And according to Ad Age, Publicis says their insurers will cover $130 million of the settlement. And finally, it's time to start planning the menu for your Super Bowl party because the big game is less than 2 weeks away. With the right planning, you may be able to make this year's party somewhat cost-effective. According to a new Wells Fargo report, some big-ticket game day dish ingredients will cost less than a year ago. However, several other popular snack items and drinks are pricier. Wells Fargo chief agricultural economist says there are bargains right now on chicken wings and shrimp. A pound of fresh chicken wings costs 5% less than the same time a year ago. Frozen wings cost 11% less. And shrimp prices on average are down 6.4% from last January. Back to you, Jack.
Thank you, Don. That's some good news for our Super Bowl fans here. And Apple CEO Tim Cook is welcoming customers waiting to get into the company's flagship store in New York City. It's for the release of the company's first new product in 7 years. About 200 people lined up at the tech giant's Big Apple store on Friday to purchase the Vision Pro. Cook opened the door, welcomed them in, shook hands, and took selfies as employees cheered them on. Inside, Cook signed autographs and chatted with the crowd as customers got demos of the headsets. Cook calls the headsets the most advanced consumer electronic device ever created. The device is a mixed reality headset that went on sale at Apple stores across the U.S. today. The price tag? Get this, nearly $3,500. That's without accessories. And you may want to put down that fruit juice. A new study analysis links drinking a glass or more a day to a small increase in weight gain among children and adults.
It's made from fruit, so juice has to be healthy, right? New research says wrong.
This just provides evidence to the already existing recommendations for juice for children.
The data linked drinking a glass or more of 100% fruit juice each day to a small increase in weight for both adults and kids. With rising numbers of obese children and concerns for dental cavities, the American Academy of Pediatrics says babies younger than 1 should avoid juice entirely. For children ages 1 to 3, intake should be limited to 4 ounces a day, and those ages 4 to 6, only 6 ounces daily.
If we haven't started that introduction of sweet beverages, we don't want to start, because once we start, that means that our body becomes accustomed to it and we're going to want to have more sweets.
But if your child has already started drinking juice, parents can help them cut back by watering it down and encouraging more water. You can even add fruit to make it fun, says Catherine Sherry with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Strong for Life.
Things like mango and pineapple Even going, if we want to be adventurous, try vegetables and herbs such as cucumber or mint. This can be fun to get the kids in the kitchen, to give them ways to get creative. And if a child is having fun and being creative with food, they're more likely to be able to want to try it and taste it.
Sherry says parents can also help children make better beverage choices by choosing healthy options themselves.
A set of 6 individual Air Jordan sneakers worn by Michael Jordan during NBA Finals sold for $8 million at an auction in New York City. An auctioneer from Sotheby's said that it has set a new global auction record for game-worn sneakers. The shoes, worn by one of basketball's greatest players in the clinching games of his 6 career NBA Finals championships, are the second highest price paid for Michael Jordan's sports memorabilia. Are you ready for an early spring? Well, today is Groundhog Day. And here's the country's most famous weather predictor, Punxsutawney Phil.
But what this weather did not provide is a shadow or reason to hide. Glad tidings on this Groundhog Day. An early spring is on the way.
The celebrated groundhog emerged from his burrow this morning. Apparently, he saw no shadow, hinting at an early spring for North America. This year in Punxsutawney, a small town northeast of Pittsburgh, the weather forecast event gathered thousands of revelers. According to legend, if the rodent sees his shadow on Groundhog Day, frigid and blustery weather will persist for 6 weeks. If it is cloudy and no shadow appears, the onset of spring is near. Now you're up to date. Stay tuned for NTD Evening News with Tiffany Meyer at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. Have a great weekend.